For the sum of 5 million, I had the privilege of serving as Song Jue's bodyguard for 5 years. By day, I was entrusted with his safety. By night, I soothed his moments of vulnerability. I once naively believed that this arrangement would endure indefinitely. That was until his beloved Omega, his radiant moonlight, returned to the country. With a cold sneer, he declared mockingly, "From this day forth, you need not follow me any longer." I stood outside the door, watching as the two entered the room together, the sounds of their intertwined breaths echoing within. Determined to escape with the 10 million given to me by Song's mother, I contemplated faking my own death. Yet, in a fit of madness, he devoured half a jar of ashes made from the flower I had prepared, shoving the blade towards his own flesh, wishing to bind our fates inextricably. Together. 1. The atmosphere was palpably awkward. When Song's mother arrived, my shirt hung loosely around my hips, my body marked with the bite marks left by Song Jue. The room was suffused with the mingling scents of sweet orange and agarwood, thick enough to reveal what had just transpired. I hastily donned my shirt, bowing my head in a show of deference as I stood before Song's mother. Slap! A hand struck my cheek with a stinging pain. I swallowed the metallic taste of blood in silence, remaining rooted in place. That hand trembled. "You, Yuchin, are actually an Omega, an unashamed wretch, deceiving me for all these years." Song's mother's eyes were ablaze with fury, her voice piercing my heart like a needle. I longed to defend myself. It was her son who sought to share a bed with me, yet he hadn't even offered me an extra dime of the 500,000. I felt shortchanged. But words failed me. After all, she was Song Jue's mother, and I had no desire to incur her wrath. Thus I replied, "I apologize, Madam Song. But now you are aware." This statement only fueled her rage, and she raised her hand as if to strike me again. A familiar hand seized her wrist. "Mother, do not hit him." Song Jue stepped in front of me, causing me to instinctively retreat a couple of steps, a faint ache flaring between my legs. I let out a soft hiss. Song Jue turned to cast a deep, somber glance at me. His dark eyes filled with intensity, before leading his mother out of the room. The door slammed shut behind them. Outside, I could hear the sound of shattering glass. Song's mother's voice escalated in pitch. "You spent 500,000 on an Omega? How can he possibly compare to an Alpha? Song Jue, you've lost your mind, entangled with a bodyguard." Song Jue's voice was low, as if he wished to shield me from the turmoil outside. "Rest assured, he will no longer be my bodyguard." 2. The commotion outside gradually subsided, and Song's mother departed. Song Jue opened the door, entering with ointment in hand. He turned my face to meet his gaze, applying the cool salve gently to my wounds with a cotton swab. His touch was tender, rendering me momentarily dazed. It seemed that I was not merely a bodyguard, but someone of significance to him. I tentatively broke the silence, my voice hoarse. "Young master, will you dismiss me? Just remember to pay me the 500,000. However, Song Jue evaded the topic entirely, simply stating, "Stop overthinking." I was taken aback, nodding in silence, but suddenly found it hard to breathe. "Will I need to accompany you to tomorrow's banquet?" His movements became heavier, hesitating for a moment. "From today onward, you need not follow me. You need not come tomorrow." My heart sank with those words. After 5 years of attending every event by his side, I was no longer required. Was it because his white moonlight Omega was returning for the banquet? I could only speculate. My knuckles turned white from gripping tightly. "Young master, I can apply the ointment myself. Do not move." Song Jue disregarded my protests, meticulously applying the ointment to my cheek. "Truly, it's unnecessary. I can manage." He chuckled softly, leaning closer to whisper in my ear, "You cannot reach it yourself." My face flushed crimson, instinctively shrinking back, only to be grasped firmly by the nape of my neck. His lips descended upon mine unexpectedly, kissing me deeply and forcefully, nearly stealing my breath away. After the kiss, Song Jue instructed, "Remove your trousers." I obediently complied, allowing his fingers to caress and reduce the swelling. 3. That night, as usual, Song Jue held me close, sinking into a deep slumber. The faint scent of agarwood enveloped me. Yet, I could not find solace in sleep, drifting in and out of a dream that recalled our first encounter. 5 years prior, burdened by a substantial debt, I had foolishly stepped into an underground boxing ring. That day, I faced a high-ranking alpha, exerting every ounce of strength, yet ultimately lost. By the end of the match, my body was bruised and battered, my ribs likely fractured, each breath laced with the taste of blood. I staggered into the changing room, trembling hands peeling off my blood-stained boxing attire. The reflection in the mirror was a pitiful sight. My lips were split, and a wound on my forehead oozed crimson. Gritting my teeth, I used a damp cloth to wipe away the blood on my face, fully aware of what this defeat signified. Without the prize money, the interest on my debts would compound mercilessly. Leaning against the cold wall, my mind was a blank slate. Suddenly, a commotion erupted outside. An alpha had lost control, pheromones spilling out chaotically, plunging the entire arena into disarray. Many alphas and omegas were affected, and I, having instinctively injected suppressants prior to the match, struggled to remain conscious. At that moment, a figure burst into the changing room. An imposing man clad in an expensive suit, his eyes bloodshot, gasping for breath. He lunged toward me, startling me into evasion. Thud! He crashed to the ground, losing consciousness. Frowning, I knew it was unwise to meddle in such affairs. After changing, I turned to leave, only to have him grip my ankle tightly. His fingers felt scorching, the force nearly crushing my bone. He then grasped my collar, inhaling deeply. Before I knew it, he had wrapped his arms around my waist and fainted again. Hey, don't play dead. I pushed him away, feeling a surge of irritation. Those who frequented the boxing ring were either wealthy or powerful, and I could not afford to provoke any of them. Reluctantly, I fished out a business card from his pocket and, following the address, hailed a cab to take him home. In the taxi, he clung to me like a cat to catnip, burying his face in my chest, inhaling deeply. The pressure was painful, making me gasp for air. I began to question whether my pheromones were leaking, but no matter how I sniffed myself, I detected no scent. After about half an hour, the man stirred awake, and I quickly recoiled, fearing he would latch onto me again. He blinked slowly, his expression freezing. "Who are you?" I quickly organized my thoughts, striving to appear composed. "You fainted at the boxing ring. I brought you back based on the address on your card. If you feel grateful, a payment of 10,000 would suffice. Perhaps 10 million would be more fitting," I silently wished. He narrowed his eyes, scrutinizing me carefully. "Are you a boxer?" I nodded. "Are you a beta?" I nodded again. He fell silent for a few seconds before finally saying, "Be my bodyguard, 1 million a year." Had the heavens heard my plea? Stunned by the exorbitant offer, my mind went blank, and I instinctively nodded, "No problem." Thus, I diligently masqueraded as a beta, becoming Songjue's bodyguard. A year later, however, at a banquet, he drank a cocktail laced with potent liquor. That night, he mistook me for an omega, roughly pulling me into the hotel sheets. I had thought this absurd encounter would mark the end of my bodyguard career, already calculating how to extract 1 million from him, along with some compensation for emotional distress, before making a hasty exit. However, upon awakening, he said nothing, allowing me, his ostentatious bodyguard, to continue trailing after him. Once the act of sharing a bed transpired for the first time, it naturally led to a second and a third. Eventually, during every sensitive phase, he chose to spend that time with me. In my everyday life, I served as his protector, but during those vulnerable moments, I became his intimate companion. I repeatedly reminded myself that all of this was for the sake of money, the 5 million contract. The next day, after Songjue slipped away in a meticulously tailored suit, I opened my eyes. Since he had dismissed me as his bodyguard, it seemed reasonable for me to stealthily infiltrate the banquet as well. I donned a nondescript server's uniform and blended into the banquet hall. Concealed in a corner, I searched for Songjue's figure. Before long, I spotted him alongside an omega. He was slender and fair, resembling a delicate little prince. Glancing down at my own brown skin and well-defined muscles, a wave of self-consciousness washed over me. 5 years of interaction had fostered within me a slow-growing desire, a misguided belief that Songjue viewed me differently. It was only when this omega, Renlu, appeared that all my illusions were shattered. Suddenly, Renlu grasped Songjue's hand and strode purposefully towards me. Instinctively, I wanted to retreat. Renlu spoke first. "Brother Song, is this your bodyguard?" I heard he yes and omega. His gaze swept over me, praising me like a cheap commodity. How can an omega look like this, all muscles? It's truly repulsive. I clenched my fists, a tumult of emotions roiling within me. Songjue's moonlight turned out to be a little green tea. Yet, upon reflection, having shared a bed with Songjue, it was only natural for him to disdain me. Any retort I might have mustered fell silent. Songjue's gaze shifted towards me, his brows furrowing with evident displeasure. "Yu-chun, didn't I tell you not to follow me?" I stood frozen, unsure how to respond, merely staring at him in a daze. Songjua withdrew his hand from Renlu's grasp and explained, "He is a beta, not an omega. Do not misunderstand." After a moment, I regained my composure. "I apologize, young master, I shall take my leave." Yet, Songjua suddenly interjected, his tone brooking no denial. "Since you're here, you might as well stay." I nodded slightly, instinctively maintaining a distance of about a meter behind him. Only this time, there were two individuals standing ahead. Renlu glanced back at me, a faint smile gracing his lips. I lowered my head, suppressing the bittersweet turmoil within, and followed behind the two. Perhaps not continuing as Songjua's bodyguard was not such a misfortune after all. 5 million was sufficient to clear all my debts. I could leave this city, seek a modest job elsewhere, and perhaps find a regular alpha or beta to engage in a healthy, equal relationship, instead of witnessing Songjua marry and start a family with Renlu. At that moment, Wei Yiming's voice rang out, "Oh, brother Song, looks like you're about to win the heart of a beauty." He was not only Songjua's business partner but also a close friend. "Now that you have someone, could you lend me Yu Chun for a while?" Since that one occasion when Songjua and he dined together and a server nearly spilled a drink on them, I had reflexively intervened. Since then, he had been trying to poach me. Each time he met with Songjua, he would ask, "Can I borrow Yu Chun? I could use a bodyguard." Irritated, Songjua countered, "His annual salary is 1 million. Can you afford that?" Wei Yiming bypassed the two ahead of us, sidling up to me and whispering, "Chun, why don't you come with me? You see, Songjua is going to settle down. He won't be able to pay you that much anymore. How about I offer you 1 million a year?" To be honest, I felt a flicker of temptation. Whose money isn't money? Why must I hang my hopes solely on Songjua? Renlu scoffed, "A beta bodyguard. Who would have thought you'd be so sought after? Everyone clamoring for you. Brother Song, why not just give him to Wei Yiming? You won't be needing him anymore, will you?" Suddenly, Songjua's expression darkened as he overturned his glass. The sound of shattering glass echoed across the floor. Protecting Songjua seemed to be an instinct ingrained in my very being, and I reflexively rushed to his side, anxiously grasping his hand to examine. "Young master, are you hurt?" Yet, Renlu was quicker, grasping Songjua's hand, his delicate fingers clutching his wrist. "Brother Song, are you all right?" I hesitated for a moment, then withdrew my hand, retreating to my rightful place. "You're bleeding. I'll take you to get it bandaged." Renlu's tone was laced with concern as he led Songjua towards the hotel room. I followed stiffly behind. At that moment, a faint floral scent wafted through the air. Renlu was releasing pheromones that stimulated the sensitive period. Songjua's skin flushed an unusual hue, his breathing becoming labored. "Renlu, what do you intend to do?" He paused at the door, sizing me up. "You're a beta. How could you possibly detect the scent of pheromones?" Songjua's chest heaved violently, akin to a beast on the brink of losing its sanity, his breath quickening. He scoffed. "So you're pretending to be a beta just to remain by Brother Song's side? Do you think he would ever develop feelings for a bodyguard? Don't forget your place." Those words struck me like a delayed bullet, hitting home. Had it not been for that accident, I would still be the same wretched fighter in the underground ring, unworthy of standing here. For 5 years by Songjua's side, I had feigned obedience and compliance, striving to be not only a competent bodyguard but also a considerate companion. Yet, only I knew the truth, that was not who I truly was. I stood there, frozen, as the door was shut by Renlu, as if nailed to the spot. It wasn't until I heard Songjua's familiar gasps from within that I belatedly realized I had drawn blood from my palm. How utterly disgraceful. I bitterly curved my lips, my entire being numb with pain. When I finally regained my senses, I found myself back at the villa, escorted by Songjua's mother. She sat upon the leather sofa, looking down at me with disdain. "You, such a base omega, are truly insufferable." She suddenly let out a cold laugh. "Disguising yourself as a beta to infiltrate my son's life, seducing him into bed. Do you think that will elevate you to the Song family? Dream on." Her eyes brimmed with contempt and loathing, as if I were something filthy and vile. She coldly declared, "From today onwards, you are forbidden from appearing before Xiaojua." I nodded expressionlessly. "No problem, but what of my 5 million? Before I could finish, she interrupted. "I can offer you 10 million, but the condition is, you must fake your death and vanish, allowing Songjua to completely sever his ties to you." My eyes brightened at once. An extra 5 million. To hell with the alpha, to hell with the sensitive period. This deal was worth it. Song's mother continued. I will inform Songjua that you were killed by another alpha in the ring. Subsequently, I will arrange for you to leave the country, never to return. I shook my head. I don't want to go abroad. Staying within the country is fine. Any place will do. She frowned, evidently displeased by my lack of gratitude, yet ultimately relented. We reached a consensus. I would go to a remote county, entirely disappearing from Songjue's world. Before my departure, I cast my phone into the villa's pool in front of Song's mother. The phone created ripples upon the water's surface before it sank to the bottom. 10 million. This sum settled the debts incurred by my gambling father. I embarked on a new life in a small county in the south. During the first year, perhaps due to the unfamiliar environment, I frequently suffered from insomnia. It wasn't until the second year that my condition improved significantly. I also secured a job at a boxing gym, and my life gradually fell into a steady rhythm. Xiaochen, a colleague named Ran when called out to me after work. Let me treat you to dinner, he said with a smile. I hesitated, feeling somewhat flustered. Ran when had been particularly attentive to me, having invited me out several times over the past month. Embarrassed, I replied, Teacher Ran, let me treat you instead. You've already treated me so many times. Ran when waved his hand dismissively. Xiaochen, just call me by my name. You're an Omega. It's only right for me to take care of you. I was momentarily taken aback, suddenly realizing my true identity as an O. For 5 years beside Songjua, I had masqueraded as a beta, becoming almost accustomed to that role. Now, without the need for pretense, I found myself feeling somewhat out of place. All right, then I'll treat you next time. I shook my head, attempting to dispel the memories that surged in my mind. I smiled and accompanied Ran one to a nearby eatery. As he placed the order, he animatedly remarked, recently, quite a few people have come to the town. It seems they're planning to develop tourism projects. Once more visitors arrive, there will be an increase in those wanting to learn boxing, and our business will flourish. I engaged in casual conversation with him, while my mind replayed scenes like a series of comic strips. Thoughts I hadn't entertained for 2 years suddenly burst forth, clamoring for attention. I wondered if Songjua would be saddened to learn of my demise. Perhaps he would find a genuine beta bodyguard to protect him, or maybe he had already started a family with Renlu, discarding any memories of me. Xiaochun, are you feeling unwell? Ran when noticed my distraction and inquired. I offered an apologetic smile and fabricated a lie. I have a bit of a headache. I might not have rested well yesterday. Ran when reached out a finger to check my forehead, and I instinctively recoiled. He awkwardly withdrew his hand, saying, I just wanted to see if you had a fever. I nodded absently, concocting an excuse to excuse myself. The next day, upon my arrival at the gym, a fellow Omega colleague approached me with a knowing smile. How was Teacher Yu's date with Teacher Ran yesterday? Date? I was momentarily bewildered. What date? You can't be serious, my colleague said incredulously. Teacher Ran is pursuing you. A flurry of memories regarding Ran Wen's behavior flashed through my mind, and realization dawned upon me. So he has been pursuing me. My colleague looked at me as if I were foolish, sighing. Teacher Ran is throwing flirtations to a blind man. Should I reject him outright or decline more subtly? I found myself hesitating. Ran One was a pleasant colleague, and I didn't wish to create an awkward atmosphere. Thus, I began to unconsciously avoid him. A week later, Ran One approached me again, inviting me to play badminton. I nearly declined, but when I saw his earnest expression, the words caught in my throat. Perhaps this would be an opportunity to clarify things between us. That weekend, we arrived at the badminton court, and he had evidently put thought into his appearance, donning a new sports outfit that was striking. However, compared to Songjua, he still lacked a certain allure. Realizing I was lost in thought, my cheeks flushed, and I wiped my face in an attempt to compose myself. After 30 minutes of play, as we finished, Ran when unexpectedly placed his hand on my shoulder, the faint scent of sea salt wafting into my nostrils. I froze, about to push him away, when a large hand suddenly intervened, pulling me from Ran Wen's grasp. Yuchen. I stumbled a few steps, barely regaining my balance. The person who had appeared in my dreams days prior now stood before me, his gaze intense, as if he sought to penetrate my very being. I instinctively took a step back, my throat tightening. You have mistaken the wrong person. With that, I grabbed my racket and turned to leave, but Songjua encircled me, his arms like iron bands, constricting my waist and rendering me breathless. Yuchen, stop lying to me. His voice was a whisper against my ear, laced with tremors. After 2 years, I have not forgotten what you look like. My body stiffened, and I began to struggle, driving my elbow into his chest with force. You truly have mistaken the wrong person. He grunted in pain but refused to release me. Desperate, I stepped on his foot, grinding my heel into it until he finally let go. His gaze still fixed on me, as if fearful I might vanish at any moment. I do not know you. If you touch me again, I will report you for sexual harassment. It was as if my words fell on deaf ears. His expression darkened with an unsettling intensity. How could you allow someone else to touch you? Ranwen quickly pulled me away, lowering his voice to whisper in my ear. He seems to be the one who came to develop the tourism project, and I had no idea he was a creep. So it was him. My thoughts became a chaotic whirlwind. How had he found me? Did Song's mother not prevent him from approaching? Along the way, myriad possibilities raced through my mind, oblivious to the gaze that shadowed me relentlessly. As I unlocked the door, Song's hand suddenly reached from behind, pressing against the doorframe, trapping me between his chest and the door. Yuchin, we need to talk. I averted my gaze, denying, I told you, you have mistaken the wrong person. Before my words could fully escape, his lips descended upon mine, silencing me. Huh? Why couldn't I push him away? My body softened under the weight of his embrace, the scent of sandalwood enveloping me. After 2 years apart, it felt as if a spark ignited. My body involuntarily leaned into him. Yuchin, no one else's pheromones are as sweet as yours. You remember me, don't you? My fingers brushed against something raised. Was it a scar? I lost track of how many times we merged, and by the time we parted, it was already morning. When I opened my eyes, I found myself staring into Song's deep, dark eyes. I weakly raised my right hand to shield my eyes from his gaze. Songjua, what do you want? He replied, to reconcile. I scoffed, lowering my hand to meet his gaze directly. Reconcile? When have we ever been together? Don't be ridiculous, Songjua. Our relationship was merely transactional. If you truly believe we were together, treat this as a parting gift. Enjoy it and leave. Songjua's expression darkened, his voice swelling with emotion. Yuchen, when I thought you were dead, I nearly wanted to leave with you. I wished to consume your ashes, to remain inseparable. But do you know what I discovered? Those ashes smelled like flour. He snorted lightly. I was both furious and relieved. Angry that you faked your death, but glad that you were still alive. Yuchen, I finally found you and you want me to leave? I maintained an impassive expression, asking, so what now? His fingers traced my chest. Come back with me. I swatted his hand away. Don't touch me. What happens when we return? Am I to continue playing the role of your bodyguard? Songjua's voice turned grave and sincere. Yuchen, marry me. I was momentarily taken aback, then burst into laughter. Marriage? He explained. I didn't touch Renlu that day. The one I love is you. You must believe me. I tied myself up, and later Wei Yiming brought me the suppressants. I know. Songjua's pheromones remained unaffected by Renlu, still carrying a hint of my scent. He was puzzled. Then why? My smile did not reach my eyes. Songjua, the person you love is not me. It is merely the facade I have crafted. That obedient, self-sacrificing beta. Do you think you can still see any remnants of the past in me? Stop deceiving yourself, Songjua. Just go back. Songjua's movements froze for a moment as his familiar gaze swept across my cheeks. The previously docile demeanor was replaced by an audacious expression. He opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to say something, but ultimately only repeated softly, No, Yuchen, I love you. I withdrew my hand from his grasp, my tone cold. Don't interfere with me. I have work to do. He did not follow. I sighed in relief. I arrived at the boxing gym on my bicycle, greeting my colleagues as I entered. When Ranwen saw me, her smile suddenly stiffened. Your neck. I instinctively tugged at my collar. Oh, I accidentally got bitten by a dog. During my break after morning classes, I leaned back in a chair in the lounge to catch my breath when the gym manager approached me, wearing a complex expression. He incredulously said, Yuchen, just now a client named Songjua directly purchased a 10-year membership and specifically requested you to teach him. My vision darkened, and I nearly slipped off the chair. 10 years? Before I could gather my thoughts, the lounge door swung open once more. Songjua, dressed casually, strolled in leisurely, a smirk gracing his face. Teacher Yu, I will be relying on you from now on. Wei Yiming followed closely behind him. So will I. I frowned. What are you doing here? Wei Yiming shrugged, playfully responding. Can't I come? I retorted dismissively, fine, whatever. He winked at me, his tone flirtatious. It's been 2 years, teacher you, and you've become even more beautiful. If you ever want to return, feel free to reach out to me. No sooner had he finished speaking than Songju's expression darkened. This is none of your business. Sensing the tension, Wei Yiming smiled and made a hasty exit. I'll come back next time to catch up with teacher you. I took a deep breath to calm myself. If you want me to teach you, you must obey. If you can't handle it, just leave. Songju smirked. No problem. In an effort to drive Songju away, I cranked up the intensity of all the training to the maximum, attempting to intimidate him into quitting. Each day, after he left, he appeared as if he had just emerged from the depths of a pool, drenched in sweat. I had thought such grueling training would deter him in a few days. Yet he astonishingly persisted for an entire month, even becoming more dedicated with each passing day. Not only that, but Songju also purchased the apartment directly opposite mine, infiltrating my life without reservation. One day after class, as I returned home, Songju said, "Teacher you, let me drive you home. It's on my way." I immediately refused. No need. He raised an eyebrow, and in the next moment he strode over, effortlessly wrapping his arms around my waist and lifting me into the car. I clenched my teeth in frustration. That scoundrel still had strength. Clearly, I needed to increase the intensity next time. Once the car started, Songju suddenly spoke. "Teacher you were right. I hardly knew you before. Now I realize just how exceptional you are." I was taken aback, remaining silent as I turned my gaze out the window, not wishing for him to see my expression. "I love you even more than before. Can you give me a chance to pursue you?" I caught a glimpse of his knuckles turning white as he gripped the steering wheel, glancing at me through the rearview mirror. Another chance? I leaned back against the car seat in silence, offering no reply. "Since you are not speaking, I will take it as a yes." The following day, I arrived at the boxing gym as usual on my bicycle. From a distance, I noticed a large crowd gathered at the entrance, chattering animatedly. Songju stood at the center, clad in a sharp suit, holding a large bouquet of red roses. He approached me and extended the roses. In front of everyone, I felt it inappropriate to discard them, yet I had no desire to accept them either, feeling awkward as I dug my toes into the ground. I swiftly turned to walk into the gym, pretending not to see him. However, just as I lifted my foot, the ground suddenly began to tremble violently. Initially, I thought it was my imagination, but then the entire floor seemed to be shaken by an invisible force, the surrounding buildings creaking ominously. The crowd erupted in chaos. "Earthquake! It's an earthquake!" Someone screamed. I instinctively steadied myself, but before I could react, a loud rumble echoed above me. Looking up, I saw the gym sign swaying precariously, and I was standing directly beneath it. "Yu-Chen, watch out!" Songju's voice exploded in my ear. Before I could comprehend, I was forcefully pushed aside, stumbling to the ground. In the next instant, a deafening crash resonated as the sign fell heavily onto the spot where I had just stood, shards scattering everywhere. I lay on the ground, my heart racing, my ears ringing. Songju was kneeling not far away, a piece of debris having struck his arm, blood trickling from his fingertips. "Songju!" Instinctively, I scrambled to his side, my voice trembling. "Are you all right?" He lifted his gaze, his face pale, yet managed to muster a weak smile. "It's nothing, just a small injury." I helped him to his feet, unable to restrain my rising voice. "Are you insane? That was so dangerous. Who told you to rush over?" Songju said nothing, merely gazing at me silently. "Yu-Chen, I cannot bear to see you get hurt again." I opened my mouth, unsure of what to say. The air was filled with screams and cries, dust swirling around us. Gritting my teeth, I forced myself to remain calm, resting my hand on his shoulder. "Stop talking. Let's tend to your wound first. Yu-Chen, promise me you'll come back with me, all right?" Before I could respond, the ground trembled violently once more. "Aftershocks. Be careful." I instinctively grasped Songju's hand, attempting to lead him to an open area, but his body suddenly went limp, collapsing. "Songju!" Panic surged through me as I quickly crouched beside him. His face was frightfully pale. "Hang in there, Songju." I clutched his hand tightly. "Don't scare me." At that moment, rescue personnel arrived, swiftly lifting Songju onto a stretcher. I followed into the ambulance, gripping his hand tightly, my mind a whirlwind of chaos. Upon arriving at the hospital, Songju was taken into the emergency room. I sat on a bench in the corridor, my hands still stained with his blood. Approximately an hour later, Songju was wheeled out of the operating room. The doctor announced the surgery was very successful. He should wake up in about an hour. I exhaled deeply, settling by his bedside to keep him company. Wei Yiming rushed in, breathless. How is he? I released Songjue's hand and stood up. The doctor said it's a fracture, but nothing serious. Wei Yiming also relaxed, murmuring, that's good. No wonder he made such a fuss about marrying you. Marrying me? My mind felt as if it were in a stupor, as though a vital connection had abruptly severed. Isn't he supposed to marry Renlu? Wei Yiming opened his mouth, seemingly taken aback. He didn't inform you? I shook my head. Initially, I also believed that Renlu was his intended bride, but later I discovered that he had long been preparing for your wedding. 2 years ago, he wished to surprise you and contacted me in advance, asking me to orchestrate a splendid proposal ceremony. The words flashed through my mind. Rest assured, he will not be my bodyguard afterwards. I found it hard to believe. Could this truly be the implication? Wei Yiming continued. At first, I did not take it to heart, thinking that Songjue was merely indulging a whim. But then, when he believed you had perished, he clutched your ashes, refusing to eat or drink for an entire week. His mother was frantic and sought me out to persuade him. When I pried open his room, he was in a frenzy, pulling at me and sobbing incoherently, lamenting that he should not have attended that banquet and regretting not proposing to you sooner. Wei Yiming's expression bore a tinge of compassion, and he sighed as he recounted that moment. It was the first time I had seen him like that. He paused, lowering his voice. Later, Songjue obtained your fake ashes and astonishingly asked me if consuming them, along with dying together with you, would unite your souls eternally. At that moment, I truly believed he had lost his mind. I clenched my fists at my sides. That scar on his abdomen. It was a result of that episode. He had neglected to eat or drink, losing his sense of taste entirely. It was only when I discovered the ashes were counterfeit that I managed to bring him back to his senses. Once Songjue realized you were alive, he was finally able to resume a normal life and work. He began to secretly investigate, gradually uncovering the truth, ultimately leading to a rift with his mother until he finally learned of your whereabouts. Songjue's fingers stirred, and he slowly opened his eyes. Upon noticing this, Wei Yiming jested, Brother Song, it's fortunate you are alive. Otherwise, Yu Chun would belong to me. I replied with exasperation. Stop provoking him. Yes, dear sister-in-law. Wei Yiming chuckled as he retreated. Songjue's voice was slightly hoarse. Yu Chun, I just heard a fragment of the story while I was dozing. Yes, I am aware of everything. Renlu and I were merely friends before. My mother always hoped to match us, but I harbored no feelings for her. I thought that if I married you quickly, they would leave you be. He expressed his regret. My insistence on not letting you accompany me was both to avoid misunderstandings and to prepare a surprise proposal for you. I never anticipated it would cause you sorrow. I apologize. I lowered my gaze and took his hand, kissing the back of it tenderly. I love you, Songjue. His pupils dilated, and he nearly sprang from the bed, his voice trembling. Really? I restrained the overly excited Songjue. I am acutely aware that I have always loved you. I fell for you the moment you agreed to my proposition of $1 million a year. I simply did not dare to gamble. I feared you merely sought a gentle and considerate companion, and that my own status would never measure up to yours. His gaze softened, and his voice became husky. You need never doubt. I only desire you. Songjue, once you have recovered, I will return with you. 3 months later, Songjue's fractures had largely healed. We departed from that small town. As we bid farewell to our colleagues, many expressed their reluctance, particularly Ran One, who glared at Songjue as if wishing to penetrate his very soul. I jested, Teacher Ran, if you continue to look at my boyfriend like that, I might just feel envious. Ran One huffed in annoyance and turned away. Wei Yiming, chuckling heartily, patted my shoulder. Sister-in-law, I've never seen you wield your tongue so sharply. Songjue embraced me, declaring, my wife's affairs are none of your concern. The end of the tale. Thank you for listening. We shall meet again in the next story.